Number 10. Sharing the stage. J-Lo didn't hold back when it came to her opinion on sharing the stage with Shakira at the 2020 Super Bowl halftime show. In her newly released documentary called Halftime, she labeled it as the worst idea in the world. Quote, "If it was going to be a double headliner, they should have given us 20 minutes. That's what they should have effing done." Basically, it turns out that Jennifer was frustrated with the NFL for booking 2 headliners and making them share the same amount of time that any solo performer would receive, as opposed to doubling it and giving the women extra time to shine. As a result, fans slammed the artist for coming off as entitled. While it's true that they only gave the performers 6 minutes each, the action-packed show garnered immense praise from fans across the globe, with many fans commending the women for showcasing their Latin heritage so brilliantly. What J-Lo was really mad about though is that previous solo headliners like Beyonce and The Weeknd received 14 minutes to perform, but judging by her complaints, it's clear that she feels offended that they asked her to share the stage at all. Number 9. Cheating allegations. Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck have had an on-again, off-again romance that has been going on since the 2000s, with fans even nicknaming the couple Benifer. I mean, these two just got married this year, after they first got engaged nearly 2 decades ago, but the timeline of their relationship is a huge red flag, and it included alleged cheating. So in July of 2002, Lopez filed for divorce from her second husband, Chris Judd, citing irreconcilable differences. But this news broke just months after Lopez had wrapped the movie Glee alongside her then boyfriend Ben. Even though she vehemently denied cheating rumors, Ben took out an ad in The Hollywood Reporter gushing about Lopez before her divorce wasn't yet finalized. In fact, even Chris Judd's father, Larry, spoke out against the couple and accused J-Lo of being unfaithful to his son. He insinuated that the affair started during the filming of Glee. Quote, "I thought Mr. Affleck would honor a married woman and not just go right into the trailer," and added that she'd be happier if she'd just tell the truth and no one in her little circle is going to say one negative thing to her. But we'll never really know the truth of what happened. Number 8. Music theft. The star has been accused of stealing and borrowing background tracks and vocals from other artists for years. One of the stars who accused her of doing this was Usher in 2005. He claimed that she stole a song that he cast aside while recording his hugely successful album called Confessions. Usher claimed that J-Lo's single Get Right is actually a re-recorded version of Ride, a song that he co-wrote the year before, which was only available online. He said, quote, "I hate it, but I'd better get some of the publishing rights or else. I didn't put it on my album because I couldn't get it right, but I didn't expect J-Lo to just take it." And apart from being accused of stealing the same sample song that Mariah KY used for Loverboy, J-Lo was also given songs that were initially intended for Ashanti, which is why a lot of people claim what happened between the two artists was straight up music theft. In September of 2001, Lopez released I'm Real from her second studio album, J-Lo, that she worked on with Irv Gotti. But the song was already recorded and mixed with Ashanti's vocals, which is why you can still hear her background vocals in Lopez's version. Number 7. Makeup artist feud. Scott Barnes, who worked for J-Lo for the past 20 years, has had to deal with so much of the star's crazy hot and cold behavior. In the mid-2000s, the star essentially banished her longtime makeup artist, Scott Barnes, after rumors surfaced that someone had leaked info to the press about her and Mark Anthony's secret marriage ceremony. Speaking on the Jeff Probst show in 2012, when asked about how J-Lo treated him, he said, quote, "It was like I had the plague." But interestingly enough, eventually she ended up giving Barnes his old job back again after learning the truth, but apparently failed to apologize for being so cold and ruthless towards him. I mean, she literally cut him off without a word and blamed him for the leak without even confronting him. Barnes went on to say, quote, "I went right back to work with her and we just never spoke about it again," which is even weirder. The funny thing is, her celebrity makeup artist would go on to work with her for another 6 years and insisted that they remain on good terms despite the fact that she ghosted him and didn't even apologize for it. Number 6. The Mark Anthony romance. Celebrity gossip magazines could not get enough of the power couple in the early 2000s. They were absolutely everywhere and it seemed like fans loved the pairing. But their beginnings as a couple were super questionable to say the least. Anthony married former Miss Universe Dayanara Torres in 2000, while Lopez was dating Ben Affleck roughly around the same time. But the on-again, off-again couple picked their romance back up while Anthony was still married to Dayanara. So less than a week after Anthony's divorce was finalized, the couple surprised fans by getting married in a small, casual ceremony in her Beverly Beverly Hills home in early June. It really begs the question of whether or not J-Lo was some kind of homewrecker, because the timeline of the rekindled relationship seems really off. I mean, he actually broke Dianara's heart, and she said, quote, "You go through hell. I cried until there were no tears left, until I was numb. I didn't want to eat, I didn't care to get dressed or take a shower, I just wanted to lie there." Anthony's feelings for Jennifer might have been there all along because the two had history, but he should have put way more thought into who he chose to marry in the first place. So in a way, they're both at fault here. Number 5. Insensitive comments. To give you some background on why everyone felt that J-Lo was trashing belly dancing. So a part of the 2020 Super Bowl performance featured young dancers sitting in glowing cages, which many people assume represented the immigrant children in cages at the US border. But she apparently had a hard time convincing the NFL to do this, and said, quote, "I'm trying to give you something with substance, not just us out there shaking out effing asses and effing belly dancing." She went on to say that she wants something real, something that's gonna make a statement, something that's gonna say we belong here and we have something to offer. Now, if you're confused about why that was so controversial, essentially she compared the art of belly dancing to just shaking your butt for the hell of it. In fact, that particular line was shared across Twitter and people were big mad. It was just a little culturally insensitive to say, considering the fact that the dance has long been associated with Middle Eastern cultures, and it's something that Shakira has become known for, using it to channel her father's Lebanese Syrian Arab roots. Number 4. Avoiding the Bronx. This one, train wreck of an ad campaign, led people to openly mock both Chrysler and Jennifer Lopez. The central premise of the ad was that sometimes J-Lo will drive through her old hood in the South Bronx in a Fiat 500 just to stay inspired. Although it sounds ridiculous, the marketing campaign obviously tried to draw on the singer's famous Jenny from the Block era. Most people recognize the song in which she pays tribute to growing up in the Bronx, which had been a solid part of her image since the 90s. In fact, the singer even titled her debut album On the 6, which is a clear reference to the New York subway train. A press release at the time even stated that she would be traveling through the streets of Manhattan to the Bronx where she grew up. But the ad backfired when the Smoking Gun reported that Lopez never actually went to the Bronx to film the ad, and that a body double stand-in was used instead, calling it, quote, "such a breathtaking assemblage of urban cliches," and that was putting it lightly. Number 3. The movie line interview. The infamous movie line interview in 1998 that could have almost ruined J-Lo's career was truly worse than you can imagine. She was 27 at the time and fresh off the success of her film Selena. She basically decided to trash all the other celebrities that were big at the time and tried to trivialize their career and contribution to the industry. In fact, when asked about Madonna, she actually said, quote, "Do I think she's a great performer? Yeah. Do I think she's a great actress? No. Acting is what I do, so I'm harder on people when they say, oh, I can do that, I can act. And I'm like, hey, don't spit on my craft." It was so ironic because J-Lo would go on to do both music and acting for the rest of her career, and critics also trashed her acting on the big screen. Also, at the time, Madonna had been a star for a lot longer than J-Lo, so there was no real comparison there. And when Gwyneth Paltrow was brought up, Jennifer almost seemed to laugh and made it clear that she didn't take her fellow actress's career seriously. Quote, "Tell me what she's been in. I swear to God, I don't remember anything she was in. Some people get hot by association. I heard more about her and Brad Pitt than I ever heard about her work." Yikes. Number 2. Accusations of racism. 20 years ago, Lopez was approaching full actualization as an entertainer, but a single from her second album, J-Lo, almost derailed her career entirely. The Murder Inc. remix of I'm Real, which features Ja Rule and Own Radio in 2001, was ruined by the N-bomb that she drops in her final verse. The issue was that the song was an instant hit, so much so that 10 years later, in 2011, Billboard gave it the 6th spot on its 40 biggest duets of all time list. But rightfully so, people were outraged by her use of the loaded term, not only because she's a Latina artist, but at her level of success, where she has a platform and sets an example to young fans. Using such a derogatory word is at best offensive. But as the accusations of racism started to mount against the star, she eventually spoke out to defend her her actions on the Today Show. Quote, "For anyone who thinks or suggests that I'm racist is really absurd and hateful to me." Although many people think this is not an excuse, it was later revealed that the track was actually written by Ja Rule himself, and apparently he encouraged her to say it. And number 1, fired a maid. This one is really indefensible. Jennifer Lopez allegedly got a German hotel maid fired for asking for an autograph. Frey Dodaj was a staff member at the luxury Melia Hotel in Dusseldorf, Germany during Lopez's stay in 2012. She was a big fan of JLo and worked up the courage to knock on the star's hotel door in Dusseldorf to ask for an autograph and was promptly turned away. Frey claims that she was relieved from her post the day after the incident. She told The Sun, quote, "I am an incredibly big fan, so I took all my courage and rang the doorbell to get an autograph, but I was rejected by 2 assistants at the door. A day later, the cleaning company that employed me at the hotel called and said that Ms. Lopez had complained. I was fired right there on the phone." If the incident really happened, it's hard to ignore the irony when you remember that Jennifer played a hotel maid in the movie Made in Manhattan. After receiving a rightful amount of backlash, the pop star wrote on Twitter, quote, "Come on, thought you knew me better than this, would never get anyone fired over an autograph. First I heard of this was on Twitter, #hurtful. Number 10, the open relationship. After reports swirled that Brad Pitt was dating German model Nicole Putarowski, who looks a little bit like a younger version of Angelina, the world was set into a tailspin. But fans were a little bit confused when they found out that the model was already married to a much older man named Roland Mary, a German restaurateur who's 41 years her senior. Not only that, but Pitt allegedly met her through her husband. A source told the Daily Mail that Brad had been coming to Roland's restaurant for years, and he was then introduced to his wife Nicole, and she passed him her number. The two of them were eventually spotted in the south of France at Chateau Miraval, the estate he shared with Angelina. To make matters worse, the trip allegedly occurred near what would have been his and Jolie's wedding anniversary. But however scandalous the relationship was, it was always a little ambiguous as to whether there was any cheating involved, especially considering that Nicole is quite philosophical about the whole open marriage deal, and her husband seemed alright with the arrangement. So was the whole thing a little bit strange? Yes, but not necessarily wrong. Number 9, the foundation scandal. After Hurricane Katrina, Brad Pitt's Make It Right Foundation built 109 eye-catching and affordable homes in New Orleans for a community where people were displaced by the damage since 2005. But according to Pop Science, the vast majority of the homes are riddled with construction-related problems that have led to mold, termites, rotting wood, flooding, and although some of the structures are not yet a decade old, out of all the homes built, only 6 reportedly remain in reasonably good shape to this day. Most either have had partial repairs or have been completely renovated because of structural problems, with at least 6 houses totally boarded up and abandoned. As a result, in 2018, Brad and his foundation were hit with a class action lawsuit alleging that the homes they built were structurally unsound, with faulty foundations, electrical issues, and some with incorrectly installed gas meters, putting their homes at risk of gas leaks and explosions. The actor took credit for launching Make It Right in 2007, serving as its public face for years, but when his lawyers argued that he could not be sued over the developmental failings, a judge ruled that the movie star would remain a defendant because of his role as the organization's founder and chief fundraiser. Number 8, dissing Jennifer Aniston. Jen told Vanity Fair in 2005 that while she doubted her ex-husband was deliberately malicious, she explained that when it comes to Brad, there's a sensitivity chip that's missing. That might just be true when you look at his Parade magazine interview in 2011. The actor gave a rather unflattering description of his life and marriage with Jen. Brad felt that he wasn't living an interesting life, and in the 5 years that he was with the Friends star, he was trying to pretend the marriage was something it wasn't. Quote, "I started getting sick of myself sitting on the couch holding a joint hiding out. It started feeling pathetic. It became very clear to me that I was intent on trying to find a movie about an interesting life, but I wasn't living an interesting life myself. I think that my marriage had something to do with it." To make matters worse, when asked about life with Angelina in comparison, he admitted that he was finally a satisfied man. After receiving backlash for the interview that was basically insinuating that Jen was boring, Brad had to do some major damage control and went on to clarify his comments. Quote, "It grieves me that this was interpreted acted this way. The point I was trying to make is not that Jen was dull, but that I was becoming dull to myself and that I am responsible for. So at least he was able to clear that up because it probably hurt Jen quite a lot. Number 7. The judge issue. Like many celebrity couples, Pitt and Jolie opted to hire their own judge to increase their privacy in the divorce proceedings. But that became yet another point of contention for the former couple when Angelina fought for their judge to be disqualified from the case. She scored a major victory point in the divorce when the California Appeals Court agreed with her that Judge John W. Outerkirk didn't sufficiently disclose prior business relationships with Brad's attorneys and considered that a conflict of interest. Angelina was actually able to prove that the private judge that Brad had advocated for failed to disclose the cases that revealed a close relationship between the judge and her ex-husband's legal team. On their part, they were quick to deny any impropriety and pointed out that Judge Outerkirk actually officiated the couple's wedding, but the District Court of Appeal felt that it was an ethical breach and doubted the judge's ability to be impartial. So it was a bit of a shady move on the part of Brad's lawyers, but it might have just been all for nothing, as in 2020, Brad was granted joint custody of his children with a tentative ruling, much to Angelina's frustration. Number 6. Avoiding child support. In August of 2018, Angelina accused Brad of not paying any meaningful child support for their 6 children after the divorce. The actor countered that he had actually loaned her $8 million to buy a home, plus $1.3 million for bills. Angelina's attorneys slammed Brad in a statement to Us Weekly, citing the incident of September 2016 as the reason that Angelina and the children needed to move from the family home. Her rep further insinuated that he was charging her interest on a payment plan, and that she will of course honor that loan. Quote, "A loan is not, however, child support, and to represent it as such is misleading and inaccurate." The rep added that Angelina was requesting that Brad pay 50% of the kids' expenses, because she has had to shoulder the majority of those without his contribution for the past 2 years. Quote, "Child support is not optional in California. Typically, a father of means would pay these expenses voluntarily without the need for a request or a court order." The former couple's constant back and forth fighting over finances still hasn't ended. In fact, Brad is reportedly suing his ex-wife for allegedly secretly selling their $116 million winery without his knowledge. Number 5. Whitewashing. We certainly can't talk about red flags without bringing up the controversy surrounding Bullet Train. Brad has recently come under fire for allegedly whitewashing Japanese culture in his new blockbuster movie, which is an accusation that has his fans divided. The action-packed movie takes place in Japan on a high-speed train heading from Tokyo to Kyoto, which sounds great except for the fact that the majority of the cast involved are from Western countries and are not ethnically Japanese, leading many to accuse the filmmakers of insensitive casting choices. As Brad is the film's main lead, a lot of the criticism naturally falls on his shoulders, not to mention the fact that his character was originally written as Japanese in the source material. Not only are the majority of the film's main cast white, but the passengers of the Bullet Train are largely white as well, while the few background actors that do appear to be Japanese have no prominence in the story or speaking lines. The movie is based on a novel by the same name, written by author Katara Izaka, who has stood by the casting choices, but people are still upset regardless, because similar instances of whitewashing have occurred in recent movies, like Doctor Strange or Ghost in the Shell, so audiences are becoming increasingly frustrated with miscasting. Number 4. The lighting lawsuit. Odile Soudan was once considered a friend of Brad and Angelina before they ran into some major issues. In fact, the famous French designer ended up suing the couple in 2017 over massive unpaid bills for the lighting in their Chateau Miraval home. Soudan claimed that the former couple simply stopped paying for her work that she did on 4 buildings of their 40-room mansion in France. While she did not have a written contract with the former couple per se, she claims that Brad gave her the green light to do whatever she wanted to make their home beautiful. Soudan took him at his word and racked up a $29 million bill in the process. She hired architects, designers, lighting and acoustic specialists, and even went to an optical engineer to calculate the angle of the sun's rays on the chateau. But she soon noticed that the former couple stopped paying for her project after her billings reached around $6 million. Before the lawyers got involved, Brad emailed her insisting that he was a fan of her work and that she should not legally attack them because they could figure it out amongst themselves. But it was no use, as in 2017 they were ordered to pay her roughly $674,000, including extra for damaging her reputation. Number 4. Dating Juliet Lewis. When they met on the set of Too Young to Die, Brad Pitt and Juliet Lewis were infatuated with each other and went on to date for 3 years. The film was quite a big break for both actors who were still climbing the Hollywood ladder at the time, but it was clearly a great romance, as years later Brad would go on to label the relationship as one of the greatest. So why was it a red flag? Well, he was 27 at the time and she was only 17. But it was the 90s, right? Well, no, actually, it was always a little bit creepy, considering the fact that Juliet was still in high school at the time. When speaking about the whirlwind romance, she told Daily Mail in 2010, quote, "I was a teenager at the time. It was a lifetime away. I was in my high school years and it was a wonderful, loving relationship with a fun, smart guy. Then it was over and he went on to become incredibly famous." The duo certainly seemed in love, as they were constantly hitting up red carpet events together, like the premiere for Thelma and Louise or The Last of the Mohicans. But the relationship was still a questionable one and falls into a morally grey area because of Juliet's age at the time. Number 2. Working with Weinstein. In a recent interview, Angelina Jolie opened up to The Guardian about her experience with the disgraced movie mogul Harvey Weinstein, speaking about his unwanted advances. Quote, "It was something I had to escape. I stayed away and warned people about him. I was asked to do The Aviator, but I said no because he was involved. I never associated or worked with him again. It was hard for me when Brad did." She went on to admit that it was very difficult for her when Brad continued to work with him, despite the fact that he tried to take advantage of her when she was 21. The couple fought over Brad's decision to take on Inglourious Basterds in 2009, which was distributed and co-financed by the Weinstein Company, and again in 2012 when he approached Weinstein to produce his film Killing Them Softly. Angelina makes it clear that Brad was well aware of what happened to her and went against her wishes anyway, which caused a great deal of pain. The actor made headlines for an interview with CNN, condemning Weinstein, and spoke about a time that he confronted him for preying on his then girlfriend Gwyneth Paltrow. So it's safe to assume he always knew about the Hollywood predator and was still happy to keep working with him. Number 1. Accusations of domestic violence. Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt's separation has been anything but a smooth process since it began, back in 2016. Their divorce seems to become messy and messier as years go by, especially after a disturbing allegation by Angelina last year, who filed court documents against her ex-husband that claimed that she was a victim of domestic violence. In fact, the court documents state that the actress and her children are willing to offer proof and authority in support of these allegations. She also agreed to provide testimony, along with the testimony of minor children. So where did this serious accusation come from? Well, in 2016, news broke that an altercation on a flight from Nice, France to Los Angeles had ultimately sparked the reason for the couple's divorce, as Brad was drinking heavily on the flight and allegedly physically hurt their oldest son, Maddox. He was subsequently investigated by the Los Angeles Department of Children and Family Services and cleared. Brad reportedly told the FBI that he had shouted at his son, but insisted that he did not attempt to physically harm him, his wife, or any of their other children. The actor has since also admitted that he was facing difficulties with alcohol at the time, and attended Alcoholics Anonymous following the divorce. So it's possible that the incident was just a family argument that happened to escalate.
At number 10, we have her forced marriage with Will Smith. Now, agree or disagree, but Jada herself has declared she got married unwillingly, and here's why. Much like everything else, Jada has openly discussed never wanting to initially marry Will, and because of this, a lot of people have made claims that Jada was wed under duress. However, Jada chalked it up to a far more reasonable explanation, and this was her being young and pregnant at the time. It's been stated how Jada's mother pushed her to tie the knot because she was fearful that Jada would never have the opportunity to get married if she didn't make that decision. Despite Jada's disapproval, the wedding still happened, and she never wanted a traditional marriage but had to compromise for Will's sake. She was going through various emotions at her 3-month term mark, and even even cried while going down the aisle because she was so angry with the idea of getting married. Not only was Jada against her marriage in general, she also disapproved of Will's luxurious lifestyle, and it's been detailed by sources that she was genuinely upset with Will when he bought their grand family home. If one didn't know any better, you could say their entire relationship seems forced at this point, but that's just a conspiracy theory and quite frankly, none of my business. At number 9, we have Jada being a huge attention seeker. Now this one is more of an observational theory rather than hard facts, but have you ever noticed how overly expressive she becomes when speaking about really personal things? Or how often she tries to shift the attention onto herself when it's really not about her? Well, maybe not, but according to multiple sources, this is exactly how Jada is, and they've used how she describes love to be one of their reasonings. Jada once said, the older she becomes, the more she's discovering what love truly is. Now there really isn't any harm in that statement, right? Maybe not. But it does say a lot about one's character when they've single-handedly used their deceased ex-lover and friend as a scapegoat for attention when they fall short. At least this is what those sources are saying about Jada. And that's putting it nicely. She's been described as somebody who drags Tupac's name through interviews at any given chance, where a lot of the times her late ex isn't even the topic of discussion, and Jada would just randomly mention him whenever she felt there was no spotlight on her. Again, this is more speculation, but why else would she continuously bring up someone she was close to who passed away? Wouldn't it hurt more to talk about them 24/7 rather than rarely or not at all? It's also been revealed that Jada got super pissed at Will at her 40th birthday party, which Will had been planning for 3 years prior. He had surprised her with a documentary he commissioned that chronicled her life. One would think this gesture of appreciation would work out in Will's favor, but it didn't. Jada and Will had it out after the party, and the incident was said to have popped off in their hotel when Will was reportedly shouted at and told that the event was one of the most disgusting displays of ego Jada had ever seen in her life. As a result, she and Will separated, as Will told her he was retiring from making her happy. I mean, that's one sure way to suck all the good vibes out of the room. At number 8, we have Jada's manipulation tactics. Now this is a big one, because of everything I looked into regarding Jada, the word manipulation came up a scary amount of times. Reasons why she's been referred to as such range from a multitude of things, many of which have to do with her husband. There's Jada's lack of reassurance to Will of her and Tupac's actual relationship at the time, to her claims that she and Tupac only kissed once and that there was nothing more there. But it was apparent Tupac had feelings for Jada. Yet Jada's own description of their relationship was quote weird. Jada no doubt strung Will along by being manipulative once she and Will started dating by casually trying to play off her situation with Tupac. In doing this, she had both their support and attention, hence the manipulation tactic. Jada used this excuse of not defining her relationship openly as an advantage for herself. With both of them by her side, the situation was manipulated to the point where no one could speculate any wrongdoing from her, while she still got what she wanted in the end. Some even say that Jada forced Will to transition to an open marriage down the road as another manipulation tactic for her being forced to marry him originally. At number 7, we have all the toxic energy which seems to surround Jada. I mean, seriously, get this girl some sage or something, because I'm positive many people will mutually agree with me. And the craziest part, there's lots of proof to back up the theory that Jada is just straight up toxic. One example is her IG post with her and Will's marriage counselor. Now there are a few things to get into from this one video, but to keep things short and sweet, Jada started rolling without even asking Will if he was ready. This raised a lot of concerns about how their marriage operates behind closed doors. Jada also called Will foolish and constantly made it seem as if his opinions were invalid during this. So despite many people thinking Jada is great, there are a whole lot more who feel she is one of the most toxic, foul Hollywood celebs out there, with good reason. There's also the accusation that Jada was behind Willow's letter to Tupac post, which randomly arose on Instagram and was deleted shortly after. The moral of the point here is that Jada knows she can do whatever she wants without repercussions, and Will always be by her side to fight. So she'll never leave or actually change her ways, and to me, that's toxic AF. If you ask anybody, people say Jada's overall attitude towards Will is actually because he was never anything more to her than a rebound. But we'll get into that in just a minute. At number 6, we have Jada's responsibility for her polygamous marriage. Will and Jada are currently in what we call an open relationship, which basically just means they're free to see and be with whoever they please but can't leave each other. Will stepped forward to disclose multiple times that he and Jada's marriage for them cannot feel like a prison. And this stemmed from rumors of Jada engaging in an affair with her Hawthorne castmate Mark Anthony, who was married to Jennifer Lopez at the time of their then unconfirmed incident. Jada's inappropriate affairs, despite not being full-blown, were said to be the cause of her and Will's marriage being forced open. Basically, so Jada could mess around with other people without catching any of the blame or downfall. So long as Will agreed, of course. which he did, by the way. And this may just be related to his previous statement of him saying he and Jada simply cannot get divorced. At number 5, we have the whole Future IG story mess, where Future made comments on Will and Jada's marriage after Jada opened up about intimacy on one of her Red Table talks to explain how a partner should know what she wants in the bedroom. Future first got involved after online memes started circulating about Will needing to hang out with him, who has a reputation for being involved with multiple women all the time, which implied that Will should learn to be more like Future in that sense. During her RTT, Jada described her partner's need to love her enough to know every part of her, which netizens thought implied Will didn't love her the way she was demanding. Twitter users also took her statements literally, which in turn sparked the whole debate of whether or not she embarrassed Will by saying she'd really bring Future to the Red Table. Charlemagne the God even questioned on his show once if Will was ever jealous of Jada and Tupac's relationship, where Will speaks about being insecure because of their tight bond. At number 4, we have Jada and her top-level narcissism. A user on Quora once described Jada as a histrionic, borderline narcissist, and their opinion on it in short is that Jada provokes Will's touch of feminism nature to bruise his ego. This user even explained why they feel Will has narcissistic tendencies and may even be one himself. They said, when you are involved with a highly narcissistic person, your mind is not your own. Jada said to Will, we're ride or die, bad marriage till the end. I knew then, they're both narcs. Will's masculinity suffered a narcissistic injury when Jada had a fling with a troubled young musician, a friend of her kid. Then Will went on Red Table to discuss it and she emasculated him. Will was triggered in the beginning by her obsession with Tupac. He took all of it out on Chris Rock when Jada gave him that look that triggered him to slap Chris. Chris was an easier target, that's my theory. Now, if we reel back to the public sharing of Willow's letter to Tupac, it made people feel like Jada was super self-absorbed for exploiting her daughter for her own selfish reasons. One YouTuber even commented on a video regarding Jada's behavior with the following: this woman somehow thinks she's a higher power, just out there healing the world, while realistically destroying all those close to her like narcissists do. Big yikes. At number 3, we have Jada's infidelity. Of course, she was out of line by her entanglement with August Alsina, especially because he was her son's friend and most likely vulnerable at the time. Plus, her messy affair with the R&B singer was later revealed by Will to have occurred after he and Jada were already separate. Despite this, Jada admitted to this affair of cheating when she and Will were not together but still married. But how she went about it was weird given what Will confirmed. She first made claims that Will gave his blessing for their affair, but the internet did not agree. It wasn't until Will publicly stepped forward to admit that Jada wasn't the only one being unfaithful that social media decided to ease up, though not by much. Still, people think Will's admission was a way to save face, but also to touch back on the rumors surrounding him and his Focus co-star Margot Robbie engaging in an affair of their own. Will's admission that he didn't give Jada permission to date because they weren't even together means their words, stories, and sides just aren't adding up. Regardless, Will says nothing Jada will do can ever change things for them now that they're open, because these were the terms they came to from the jump. Will and Jada are no longer described as married but as life partners instead. It's been detailed that Will may just be playing Jada's game because he doesn't want to lose her for good. At number 2, we have one of Hollywood's biggest drama queens. Well, maybe that's a bit of a stretch here, but Jada is known for being one for the dramatics, and that's been noted because of her household full of drama. However, it's also been detailed that both Will and Jada are equally responsible for the drama that occurs in their home. Still, with all of Jada's major backlash every time she speaks, and being labeled as messy and difficult due to her outing intimate details of her relationship to the public with no real remorse for Will's feelings, it's safe to say that the majority of the public is leaning on the side of Jada being the chaos enabler. At number 1, we have Jada's lack of boundaries. This one is a no-brainer, I'm sure, because we all know Jada has a tendency to air it all out, whether it's intentional or not. Jada has been described as someone who overshares too much to the public, and this severely impacts her family. She's not very private about anything, which shows there are no boundaries in her relationships overall. In particular, she has no respect for Will by exposing everything about their relationship, which is just tasteless. And before you say this is unfair, we literally know everything we do know about them now because of Jada. She was the one who admitted to infidelity, which really should have been something Will was warned about before it went public, since Will was clearly caught off guard by the news of August telling the world he gave them permission. She was also the one talking openly about her intimacy once while her mother was present. Jada also constantly speaks so horribly about her marriage in general, so I'm sure you get the point now.
Number 10. How they met. In an interview with Harper's Bazaar UK in 2019, Sophie spoke about their meeting and she basically said they got set up. She explained that they had a lot of mutual friends and they had been trying to introduce them for quite some time. Apparently they were following each other on Instagram and he direct messaged her one fine day out of the blue. Soon after the meeting, he invited her to meet up with his tour that was passing through the UK. She said that the two of them had an instant connection, even though she hadn't expected to like him. She said he didn't bring security, he brought a friend, and they drank just as hard as the rest of us. I remember us two spending only a couple of minutes on the dance, and then we found a space in the far corner and we just talked. Sophie went on to say that they talked for hours and hours, but that she was never bored. She felt that the conversation wasn't contrived, it wasn't small talk. From her point of view, it was just easy. She said soon they were inseparable, and then she went on tour with him. So at that point, it seemed like she had really fallen hard for this dude, and marriage came very quickly after that. Like very quickly, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Number 9. Age is but a number. Joe was 28 years old when he popped the question to his then 21-year-old girlfriend Sophie. A lot of people believe that age is just a number. Many didn't find this to be a big deal at first. An insider close to the couple revealed that they were madly in love, and while Sophie is a bit younger than he is, she grew up in a small English town, so it's not completely out of the ordinary for an age difference to be glossed over. Many fans also came to her defense, citing her mental maturity. While she may have been 21, she was forced to grow up very fast, and because of that, she was probably closer to like a 30-year-old mentally speaking. The red flag is that much like celebrities like Leonardo DiCaprio or Al Pacino, Joe tends to date people much younger than himself, like supermodel Gigi Hadid. His oldest girlfriend was Taylor Swift. She was a whole 4 months older than him. Wow, make way for grandma! Despite how uncomfortable many fans found the age gap to be, the couple did not care, and really, that's what matters. Number 8. Flirty McTI. When these two first got together, it was believed that Joe had all of the leverage. Why? Well, Sophie was into him for quite some time, but she was aware that at the time, Joe was not known for his commitment skills. When they first met, he was a player, and according to several women, he was seeing them simultaneously and without each other's knowledge. Joe's tone shifted though when he met Sophie. By December of 2016, he was becoming a one-woman kind of guy. According to Sophie, they were intoxicated with each other and they started dating exclusively. However, it appears that he was playing the field for so long that he's forgotten to turn off his game. Joe was still flirting with women at his shows, and while it may have been accidental, the fact that he's not aware of what he's doing was cause for concern. Not only has Joe flirted with other people in the past, but apparently his ex Sophie did as well, with one of Joe's close friends whose jaw literally dropped when he saw her in real life. Number 7. The private PDA? Despite crying out to the public to just leave them alone, Sophie and Joe were known for their aggressive PDA. Whether it's getting cozy at an awards show, or at a Kings of Leon's concert, or during a shopping trip. Page 6 reported that in May of 2017, the couple went into a dressing room together in a Soho boutique. According to the report, the couple entered the change room and a customer noticed both of them in bare feet below the door. Now, while it's super creepy that someone was just peeking under doors in Soho, it was clear that Sophie was trying on clothes for Joe in the privacy of their own little room. When they exited, they noticed the couple to be giggly and very touchy-feely. Now, while being close isn't a bad thing per se, these two have constantly asked the world to ignore them and stop focusing on their love lives. Well, hey man, then stop licking your wife in public. Number 6. In and out. Las Vegas weddings. Quick, easy, and everlasting. Joe and Sophie tied the knot in Las Vegas after publicly claiming several times that they were in no rush to get married. After telling the world they'd be taking time off for themselves following their engagement, it was not less than a month later that they tied the knot and attended the Billboard Music Awards right after getting their license, like on the exact same day. They went to a little wedding chapel in Las Vegas that's famous for its star weddings, like Britney Spears' marriage to her friend Jason Alexander for 2 days. Not to mention, the wedding featured some huge Vegas cliches. There was an Elvis impersonator literally officiating the thing. Many speculate that Joe was trying to prove something to his brothers by throwing the exact opposite of their weddings. Nick Jonas and Priyanka Chopra had an extravagant $1 million wedding spanning multiple days. The only people in attendance for Joe and Sophie were Joe's brothers, DJ Khaled and Diplo. They also didn't wear the traditional dress and suit, instead opting for slacks and jeans. To cap it all off, they used ring pops instead of real rings to seal the deal. Man, I feel like I'm describing a dream that I had. Number 5. life. Sophie was hesitant. Sophie Turner previously admitted to OK Australia in 2016 that she's never dated anyone who she didn't know before or who is in the industry. Her reasoning, well, in addition to being more focused on her career than her love life at the time, she claimed that their lifestyles were a contributing factor. Joe and Sophie had different ideas of what was fun. She went on to say how on-set romances are amazing, but they tend to be very temporary when it comes to their time together, so that was a big fear for her. The logistics seemed to be her main concern as well. If she was filming in Australia and he was on tour in the States, how would that work? They'd never see each other. After getting together officially with Joe, Sophie did admit that she felt like she was in a fishbowl. Frustratingly for her, the smallest thing would be made into headline news. If she stubbed her toe on the sidewalk, it was in the front page. Her frustrations are legitimate, but why maintain this charade for so long if you're uncomfortable from the start? Number 4. Short and sweet. Before being engaged, the couple only dated for a very short time. Joe Jonas and Sophie Turner were first linked after attending a Halloween party together in 2016. The singer showed up dressed as a Dalmatian, while his love interest sported some pink sequins bunny ears, according to People magazine. Less than a week later, they were spotted looking very comfortable at the pre-MTV European Music Awards event in the Netherlands, where Kings of Leon's performed. Less than a year after getting together, Sophie was spotted with a ring on her finger, and the engagement was confirmed. Many people get engaged early in their relationship, but as you've seen through this video, this was a case of rushing into things a little too quickly considering some of the other entries on this list. Number 3. She's messing with a gold digger. According to an inside source close to the couple, Joe was beyond excited when he started dating Sophie, and sounds like it's because of her money. According to the source, one of the main reasons that Joe is so smitten with his ex-man wife is because she is able to provide for herself and for him. Apparently Sophie does not let Joe pay for most things, something the musician is not used to. When speaking about his wife in interviews, Joe kinda just backed up the whole gold digger theory, as the first and foremost thing that he mentions is how much he loves her independence. He literally said, "She buys me stuff all the time. I love it." While many praised Sophie for her efforts, many people started pointing out the red flag and expressing their discomfort knowing that Joe Jonas doesn't pay the bill when he's out with his lady. Maybe that's why they're getting divorced. Maybe she kept the tabs and the bill finally came due. Number 2. Different love languages. According to Sophie herself, she learned that a majority of what she knows about physical intimacy was from her time on the HBO series Game of Thrones. I'm not sure why this needs to be said, but I'm gonna say it. Don't treat Game of Thrones as something to learn from. Dragons aren't real. They're not real, Nate. Thanks to the show, it may have skewered her view on what proper intimacy looks like. Meanwhile, Joe just seems to love chit-chatting about his private parts. Seriously, like every chance this guy gets, it's genitalia. He boasted to Vulture in December of 2013 about removing his purity ring, which himself and his brothers Kevin and Nick rocked during their Disney days. In October of 2016, he then talked about the size of his little dinghy compared to that of his brothers, which is just too much information. Very uncomfortable. He goes on to recount the time that he lost his V card and about becoming a little bit too excited while filming music videos with Ashley Graham and Charlotte McKinney. Sophie has expressed her disappointment in this lack of restraint and has begged him to quit numerous times, but he persists and now they're divorced. And at number 1, Joe took off his wedding ring first. In the weeks leading up to this divorce announcement, Joe was photographed without his wedding ring quite a few times. One of those moments was as far back as August 11th, when he was picking up an iced coffee in New York City. But since then, he's made a point of wearing it again, even as the couple have officially filed for divorce. On Monday, Joe posted a black and white photo on Instagram that showed him looking at the camera and holding a cup with his wedding band prominently on full display. Then, just this morning, he posted a statement to Instagram claiming that it was from the two of them. It said, "After 4 wonderful years of marriage, we have mutually decided to amicably end our marriage. There are many speculative narratives as to why, but truly this is a united decision and we sincerely hope that everyone can respect our wishes for privacy for us and our children." This is quite a shock considering that the news only broke a few days ago. Sources spoke to TMZ and said that Joe had his people contact at least 2 divorce lawyers in LA, and the couple has had serious problems in their relationship for at least 6 months.
And number 10, we have trying to dress up. Recently, Justin Bieber was spotted on a tour while visiting Tokyo. However, the star looked different. than what fans were used to seeing. In the pictures circulating on social media, the singer can be seen wearing a wig. With the accessory, he's also seen wearing sunglasses, jeans, and a light fur coat. Justin's level of disguise has definitely been causing a stir on the internet, with some fans even pointing out they wouldn't have even realized it was him if it wasn't pointed out. Other fans have even gone to say, "Oh, spare us, Justin, it's already starting to look like a pattern." And wow, he really doesn't want to be recognized, does he? And to add a cherry on top of Justin's odd behavior, one fan would even pick fun at the pop star by saying, "What a great idea to walk next to Hailey, just so no one would recognize her." Well, it's safe to say that Justin probably should work on upping his level of disguise, because this definitely did not work. And number 9, abandoning a monkey in a foreign country. After Justin's pet monkey, Mally, was seized by the German officials, when the singer was trying to bring the animal into the country without permission during a stop on his Believe tour, it said that Justin didn't have some proper paperwork, so the authorities seized the monkey and quarantined it at the airport. However, the monkey would later become property of Germany, and Justin would later be sent a bill of $1,500 after he decided to abandon his monkey in the country. Mally is currently living with a group of other monkeys in a wildlife refugee in North Germany, and Bieber still owes Germany's Federal Agency of Nature Conservation $11,000 for vaccinations and rehoming fees, which is truly disappointing. This was your pet and you left him behind, you didn't even try to get him back. This was definitely a red flag, and it showed that the star isn't someone we thought he was, and we really should have noticed. And number 8, ordered his bodyguards to carry him. When visiting China, you have to visit the Great Wall. That's just a given. However, Justin Bieber's visit would definitely highlight one giant red flag that many of us missed. When visiting the wall, photos of Justin would soon circulate online, showing Justin being hoisted on top of his bodyguard's shoulders like they were his minions, and they even carried him up the Great Wall of China. Now, Justin was definitely able to walk up the wall himself, as just before his adventure, he was spotted skateboarding around town as 2 of his security guard members jogged behind him. It was definitely a diva-like move that none of us could get over, and it was a shame to see the star deprived himself of a chance to experience the experience and made his security team do the hard work for him. And number 7, banned for life from a skydiving facility. Las Vegas indoor skydiving confirmed back in 2013 that Justin Bieber would be banned for life after he used the facility and then backed out of a payment deal he arranged with the company. Justin and 6 of his entourage members would arrive to the facility just before it closed. When the pop star was approached about a payment method, he was apparently given the option of shelling out $1,600 for himself and his crew, or posting a shout out of the facility and a photo of himself mid-flight to his Instagram account. Justin at the time reportedly agreed to post a photo as payment, but the company never got their $1,600 worth of publicity, and they would say he actually faked like he was posting something. As per the agreement, it never actually happened. In addition to not paying, the group also didn't tip the staff, even after they stayed late to accommodate their needs. And number 6, ignored pilots. In 2014, CNN would report that Justin and his father allegedly refused a pilot's warning to stop smoking during a flight from Canada to New Jersey. Law enforcement officials would later give details that the flight crew on the charter jet told the federal officials after they ferried Justin and his entourage to New Jersey. The smoke was so strong in the cabin that the flight crew members even had to put on oxygen masks because they were concerned that they would inhale so much of it would cause their tests to say that they were positive for being under the influence. When the pilots asked the group to stop, Bieber and his father would begin to have some words with the crew, which would result in the pilots in attendance to close the cockpit to avoid contact with the group. When they landed, Justin would be granted re-entry into the United States after a search of the charter plane was done by federal officials. They did detect smoke smell, but they never found any signs of substances. And number 5, his dreadlock phase. Justin doesn't do too well with apologies. We all know that. When the singer debuted his dreadlocks, he sparked some major controversy as fans started to accuse the star of cultural appropriation and white privilege. With fans calling out Justin for not being himself, many stated that the star could have done better. One fan even chimed in by saying, "It's really disappointed to see you with dreads. I thought you educated yourself." The star then decided to stick with his dreadlocks and refused to respond to the backlash he was receiving by fans. Instead, he decided to share a statement about acknowledging insecurities by saying, "Aren't we all broken? We can hide behind superficial things, but the truth is, we're all hurting." So what's your opinion on celebrities trying to rock braids and dreadlocks? And let me know in the comments below. And number 4, he talked about becoming the next Michael Jackson. In an interview done back in 2012, Justin Bieber would make it clear that he wants to be nothing less than the next Michael Jackson, the new king of pop, after he would go on to say that, "That's where I want to be. I don't want to just be a heartthrob teen." Now, when someone starts saying that they want to be the next anyone, it should be a giant red flag, especially when they're trying to say they want to be the next Michael Jackson, because no one will ever be the next Michael Jackson. That's just a given. Bieber would go on to borrow machine-like dance moves, glitter gloves, and he even copied Michael's signature move in like a gentle way, I guess. This would definitely become a major red flag, and we were missing it because he was trying so hard to be someone he's not, rather than just being himself and allowing his fans to appreciate who he really is. And number 3, running around town in his undergarments. In 2020, Justin would be pictured running around downtown LA in his Calvin Klein briefs after shooting a music video all night. When photos started circulating online, it would show the star wearing nothing but briefs as he raised his arm above his head and smiled as he walked towards his trailer. And this wasn't the first time Justin's been spotted in public wearing nothing but his briefs, because back in 2018, it would seem like Justin forgot his bathing suit while on a trip to Miami after he was pictured out for a little dip wearing nothing but his white briefs. In the photos, Justin could be seen hanging out with his friends by the resort pool, wearing nothing but a wet pair of Calvin Klein boxer briefs before wrapping himself in a white towel before things became too revealing. Him and Hailey would also be pictured later on in a hot tub as fans would call for the star to put on some clothes. And at number 2, we have meeting Stephen Harper in overalls. So back when Stephen Harper was still the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin had the chance to meet him back in 2012. However, his outfit choice was definitely interesting. When the singer stepped out in overalls to accept a Diamond Jubilee medal from Stephen Harper, he would go on to tweet, "I met the Prime Minister in overalls, LOL." Justin would later try to justify why he opted to wear overalls to such an event by saying, "It wasn't like I was going to his environment, we were at a hockey arena." And while he may have been at a hockey arena, he was receiving such a high-class award that it was only given to Canadians who earned achievements abroad, and he wore overalls to collect this achievement. Now, 50 years ago, if you pulled this move while going into work, they would have sent you home, so a lot of people were judging Bieber's decision to wear the overalls, and his excuse to trying to stay true to his fans and his own vibe, it was pretty weak. And at number 1 today, we have showing up late for shows. In 2013, Justin Bieber would be 2 hours late for a concert because he was playing video games and threw a tantrum. When Justin was set to perform at O2, he would end up being 2 hours late after throwing a massive tantrum and telling his staff that it was his gig and he would go out when he wanted to. After waking up late due to a night out, Justin would proceed to lock himself in a dressing room to play computer games. After, his actions would cause hundreds of teenage fans to be upset because they would have to leave to catch last trains before even getting the chance to see their idol perform. Justin would later come out to say he was only 40 minutes late, and he said he had to come on late due to technical difficulties. He then highlighted that the event was great. However, one O2 worker would come out to say that wasn't the case, and the star was actually backstage arguing with his management team. Justin's mentality about being a star that can do whatever he wanted that night was definitely a red flag that no one really noticed.
Kicking off our countdown at number 10 is Mariah KY. The two ladies have had a friendship for many years, but there was a moment in their friendship where Ellen's humor proved to go too far. The big debate with comedians is, are their jokes funny or are they actually mean? Mariah believes that this one was a bit mean, but she did handle it well despite the fact. What happened was, she went on Ellen's show to do an interview, and Ellen brought up the rumors that were going around at the time that Mariah might be pregnant. Right away, Mariah says, "Let's not talk about that." But then Ellen takes out 2 glasses of champagne and tries to force her to drink it to prove that she's not pregnant. Mariah is hesitant, and it might be because she was in her early stages of pregnancy at the time, and oftentimes females don't want to reveal it because in the first trimester, miscarriages are common. Sadly, Mariah did have a miscarriage and revealed the news later down the road. I personally watched this video And I did not find it funny. I feel like forcing someone to drink alcohol to prove if they're pregnant or not, like, I get the joke, but probably not a good one, Ellen. Up next, number 9 is Dakota Johnson. Back in 2019, the actress sparked a fire on the internet after she went on the Ellen show for an interview. The two of them have had this ongoing debate on whether or not Ellen has been invited to Dakota's birthday parties. In 2018, Dakota admits that she didn't invite Ellen because she didn't know that she would want to be invited. So she invited Ellen in 2019, but Ellen didn't show up and gave no explanation. But when Dakota went on her show, Ellen called her out and said that she didn't invite her to her birthday party again. The tension was super awkward to watch, I'm not gonna lie. And Dakota says, actually, no, that's not the truth, Ellen. Ask everybody. Ask Jonathan, your producer. Ellen's producer live ends up confirming that she was invited and didn't go. You can tell that Dakota was not taking Ellen's this time and was making sure that everyone knew that she was invited. Not sure why Ellen was trying to make it look like she wasn't, but the whole thing was super, super awkward. Like, I wish they could have just removed that whole part from the interview. Swiping the number 8 spot is Mark Ruffalo. You're probably wondering what the hell kind of beef he has with Ellen. It all just seems very random, not gonna lie. And it kind of is. Remember when the world went to a frenzy because Ellen was sitting with George Bush at a Dallas Cowboys game? She received a ton of hate for it, but did a monologue on her show where she said that they are friends despite their different beliefs. Like she always does, she spoke about kindness and said that she chooses to be kind to everyone. But Mark didn't agree with that and let his feelings out in a tweet. He wrote, "Sorry, until George W. Bush is brought to justice for the crimes of the Iraq War, including American-led torture, Iraqi deaths and displacement, and the deep scars, emotional and otherwise, inflicted on our military that served his folly, we can't even begin to talk about kindness." Clearly, he does not agree with Ellen's decision on who she chooses to have in her friend circle. Rolling into number 7 is Kelly Ripa. She was one half of the morning show's favorite couples. Her and Michael Strahm were co-hosting Live with Kelly and Michael from 2012 to 2016. But then Michael suddenly announced that he was leaving the show to join ABC's Good Morning America, and his relationship with Kelly began to crumble. Most hosts decided to remain neutral on the conflict, but Ellen invited him on her show, which hurt Kelly's feelings. A source said that Kelly was livid and said, I quote, "Cozying up with Michael was like telling the world she had taken his side and she was taunting Kelly." People had different opinions on the situation though. Some believe that Ellen's decision wasn't intentional, while others thought that she knew what kind of outcome would come from it. Moving on to number 6 is Kathy Griffin. Alright, so they've had drama for a while now apparently. It's been an ongoing feud and it all comes down to whose side of the story you will believe. In 2016, she published a tell-all book called Kathy Griffin Celebrity Run-Ins, My A to Z Index. In the book, she dished out dirt on about more than 100 celebrities, and Ellen was one of them. She wrote, "I'm almost positive a certain beloved daytime talk show host once had me kicked out of a backstage dressing room at the Emmy Awards. I can't prove it, but this person, who has short blonde hair, has a mean streak that all of Hollywood knows about." But Ellen denies the story and says that Kathy is the mean one. Rumors were claiming that Ellen banned her from her show, but Ellen spoke about it during the interview and said, "I didn't ban her from the show, because first you have to be on the show to be banned." Shots fired. Ellen is sassy. Halfway into our list, number 5 is Caitlyn Jenner. Back in 2015, Caitlyn went on Ellen's show and made a shocking confession, or so it seemed. During her interview, Ellen asked her what her stance was on same-sex marriage, and she said that there was a time that she did not support it. Ellen fired back at her immediately and made it seem like she wasn't supportive of the LGBTQ community. And then, after the interview, Ellen took shots at Caitlyn while talking on the Howard Stern show. She said she was unfairly passing judgment about gay people and marriage. But it turns out that that wasn't the case, and Caitlyn was not happy that she was trying to paint her in that light. Caitlyn opened up about the full story and said that she had actually talked to Ellen on the phone prior to taping the interview and convinced her to discuss her shifting stance on marriage equality. But then Ellen kind of flipped the switch on her during the interview and made it sound like she was against it. That all does seem pretty sketchy. And at number 4 is Joan Rivers. The icon has passed away away and is not able to speak on her side of the story anymore, but Kathy Griffin chose to tell it, which is also one of the reasons that her and Ellen still aren't very friendly with each other. Kathy opened up to Variety and said, "One of the things that really hurt Joan, and we talked about it at our last meal together, was that Ellen always shunned her and Ellen thought she was vulgar and not funny." Apparently, despite all of their drama, Kathy still reached out to Ellen to check if she was going to do a tribute for Joan after she died in 2014, but claims said that Ellen did not want to. Kathy finished her story by saying that she wished Ellen would have celebrated her more because she has such an incredible platform, and Joan was the one who broke the glass ceiling for women talk show hosts. So she should have gave like a really nice tribute to her, is what most people believe. Coming into number 3 is Nikki Tutorials. The YouTuber went on Ellen's show for an interview earlier this year and was quick to go on the internet and start sharing how bad her experience was. Like Ellen, Nikki's also a big influence in the LGBTQ community after coming out as transgender on her channel. Before her interview, she gushed online about how excited she was to go on the show because she was a big fan of hers. But after the airing, she said that Ellen didn't even say hi to her before going on stage and said that the whole experience just felt very cold and distant. She also admitted that she didn't even have a place to go to the bathroom, claiming that the closest bathroom to her was reserved for the Jonas Brothers and that she was not allowed to use it. I feel like that's kind of illegal. Where was she going to the bathroom then? Swiping the number 2 spot is Susan Sarandon. She too did not agree with Ellen's speech about being friends with George W. Bush. When Ellen spoke about the controversy on her show, she said, "I have friends who don't think the same things that I do. When I say be kind to one another, I don't mean only the people who think the same way you do. I mean be kind to everyone." Susan tweeted a response and posted a quote from Out magazine saying, "But missing the point entirely, DeGeneres framed the issues as simply a matter of her hanging out with someone with different opinions, not a man repeatedly accused of being a war criminal." Clearly, I just think that everyone's gonna have their own opinion on that situation. If Ellen can pick and choose if she's friends with George Bush or if she's not, yeah, I feel like that everyone's gonna have a different opinion on that. And I'm gonna keep mine to myself. In the number 1 spot is Kevin T. Porter. You know things are bad when a comedian offers donations online in exchange for stories about Ellen being one of the meanest people alive. His words, not mine. That is right. Kevin tweeted out that he would donate to Los Angeles Regional Food Bank if people would share a story when Ellen was mean to them. He quickly got over 2,000 replies with people sharing stories of her being rude. He was wanting to show everyone that Ellen is not what she appears to be and thought if people could see all of these stories at once, it would help shed some light on that. He was exchanging $2 for every story, but then it got hard to tell which stories were real or not, so he just donated $600 and then attached the screenshot of his receipt. So he actually did donate the money. However, I feel like you are going above and beyond to try and expose someone for being mean. And isn't that kind of mean?
So starting off at number 10, we have Winona Ryder. Winona Ryder very famously dated Johnny Depp in 1989 to 1993, and they had a very public and somewhat messy relationship. But in the end, the two are very fond of each other, and they have such a good relationship that Winona made a point to defend Johnny when Amber was accusing him of horrible things. In a statement, Ryder said, quote, "I understand that it is very important that I speak from my own experience, as I obviously was not there during his marriage to Amber. But from my experience, which was so wildly different, I was absolutely shocked, confused, and upset when I heard the accusations against him. The idea that he is an incredibly violent person is the farthest thing from the Johnny I knew and loved. I cannot wrap my head around these accusations. I truly and honestly only know him as a really good man, an incredibly loving, extremely caring guy who is so very protective of me and the people that he loves, and I felt so very, very safe with him." And even though she made a point to not dismiss Amber's claims, she felt the need to let everyone know that Johnny was nothing but a perfect gentleman in their relationship. In at number 9, Vanessa Paradis. Vanessa Paradis was in a relationship with Depp from 1998 to 2012, and they shared 2 children together. She also made a point to defend Johnny and make it clear this picture Amber was painting of him was false, saying in her statement, quote, "I've known Johnny for more than 25 years and we raised our 2 children together. Through all these years, I've known Johnny to be a kind, attentive, generous, and non-violent person and father." And then referring to the new allegations, she added, quote, "This is nothing like the true Johnny I have known, and from my personal experience of many years, I can say he was never violent or to me. So yet again, another former partner who was brave enough to say the truth about Johnny, even though I'm sure at the time she got tons of hate for going against a fellow woman. And at number 8, Sia. Sia's statements in support of Johnny are the most recent on this list, but out of seemingly nowhere, the singer came out on Twitter to address her support for Depp. She started by tweeting out a video showing the leaked audio recordings of Amber Heard talking about how she had lost it on Johnny in the past. Then she made her support even clearer, tweeting out, quote, "Just showing my public support for Johnny Depp. I mean, I'd love him to get clean and stop with the jewelry, but he's clearly the victim after hearing those tapes." But Sia wasn't even done, and she finished off her support by calling out Amber Heard's former boyfriend, Elon Musk, writing, quote, "Also at Elon Musk, didn't you give her the $7 million she donated from her settlement? She still came out $7 million richer. Why are you protecting her? She will never get the help she needs if we all stay silent." So clearly Sia is very opinionated on the matter and wants to see Amber Heard brought to justice, and really you can't blame her at this point. In at number 7, Allison Parody. The Parody family is very clearly a big fan of Johnny Depp because Vanessa Parody's sister Allison also made a point to defend Johnny. She showed her support in the form of an Instagram post, posting a picture of what looks to be the two of them together, then writing in the caption, quote, "You are and always will be family to me. You are one of the funniest and most loving people I know. And it's not always a given for your in-laws to like you, so the fact that they are going out of their way to defend Johnny like this is really huge in my eyes." And at number 6, Lily Rose Depp. And of course his daughter Lily Rose Depp made a point to defend her father against the claims. She first posted a screenshot of an article from People, which showed that the LAPD had been to the couple's house after Amber called them, but they didn't find any proof that Depp had caused any harm, so no charges were pressed. With a statement reading in part, quote, "There was no evidence of any crime. A crime did not occur, so the officers left the scene and left a business card." Then she posted a photo of her and her dad back when she was just a baby, captioning the photo, quote, "My dad is the sweetest, most loving person I know. He's been nothing but a wonderful father to my little brother and I. And everyone who knows him would say the same." So here it is very clear that she supports her father and wants everyone to know that at that point there was no proof of anything other than what Amber had said happened. Halfway number 5, Laura Wasser. Laura Wasser is Johnny Depp's attorney, and of course it's her job to protect and defend Johnny, so she would make statements in support of him. But in one statement where she spoke of the case, she said that Heard was, quote, "attempting to secure a premature financial resolution by alleging abuse," adding, quote, "her current application for a temporary restraining order, along with her financial requests, appears to be in response to the negative media attention she received earlier this week after filing for divorce. Yet Johnny cannot protect himself or Amber from media scrutiny, and Amber's anger certainly cannot drive this dissolution proceeding." Continuing that Amber doesn't need any of Johnny's money because she's a successful actress and should have had plenty of money of her own. With Wasser adding that Heard took advantage of Depp at an emotional time, as his mother had only died 3 days before Heard filed for divorce. So here Wasser is trying to make it clear that Heard has bad intentions and not only wants to exploit Johnny for money, but wants control of her press narrative as well, which I think perfectly shows, the kind of person that Amber is. And at number 4, Paul Bettany. Paul Bettany is an actor who has worked alongside Johnny Depp in 3 movies in the past: Transcendence, The Tourist, and Mordecai. And because of all the times the two have worked together, Bettany figures he was a good person to be a character witness of Depp's. Bettany showed his support on Twitter, writing, quote, "Known Johnny Depp for years and through several relationships. He's the sweetest, kindest, gentlest man I've ever known." Just saying. With most of the replies under the tweet thanking him for speaking out and commenting that he was right now that the news came out that leaked audio recordings showed that Amber had hurt Johnny before. And at number 3, David Yates. Johnny Depp was announced as playing Grindelwald in the sequel film Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. And after the announcement, there were cries to exclude him from the film and recast, after reports surfaced of Amber Heard's accusations. But after much deliberation, the director David Yates and other studio executives made the decision to keep him in the film. And after some backlash, Yates himself came out with a statement on the matter. In an interview with Entertainment Weekly, Yates said, quote, "Amber's claims were one person who took a pop at him and claimed something. Whatever accusation was out there, it doesn't tally with the kind of human being I've been working with." So clearly here, Yates felt that the accusations were false from the get-go. And at number 2, J.K. Rowling. In the same context as Yates, J.K. Rowling also had to make a public statement after her and the other studio executives made the decision to keep him in the film. According to the statement, after claims were made about Depp, it was considered that the studio recast him. But Rowling implied that the fans might not know the full story on the matter, implying that Amber was hiding things. Saying in the statement, quote, "For me personally, the inability to speak openly to fans about this issue has been difficult, frustrating, and at times painful. However, the agreements that have been put in place to protect the privacy of two people, both of whom have expressed a desire to get on with their lives, must be respected. Based on our understanding of the circumstances, the filmmakers and I are not only comfortable sticking with our original casting, but are genuinely happy to have Johnny playing a major character in the movies." So clearly there, Rowling felt that she knew the truth and stuck to her guns. And finally, number 1, Laura Devenir. Laura Devenir is an interior decorator to many stars, so it's safe to say she's seen celebrities in their truest lights. And even though she's a former friend of Amber Heard's, she did the right thing and made a statement against her in court for the defense of Johnny. In it, Devenir claims that she didn't see Amber Heard's bruises after an alleged fight between her and Depp on May 21st of 2016. And even though Amber tried to release a recording making the statement look false, Johnny's lawyers included an email from after the recordings saying again that Devenir had never seen bruises on Amber's body. And although the timeline of events can be pretty confusing, since Devenir has continued stating that she never saw the bruises, this pokes more holes in Amber's story and clearly proves that she lied.
Starting off this countdown, we have the tabloids. According to a number of big news tabloids, Millie Bobby Brown has actually changed a lot because of her success with Stranger Things. There's a side of her that we don't get to see, but they do when conducting interviews. One source revealed, and I quote, "Brown was cool, aloof, and downright rude during promotional events for season 3 of Stranger Things. So much so that her publicist had to give her a little lesson in how to deal with media and fans." Well then, that's pretty awkward. Coming in at number 9, we have David Harper. The bond that Millie's character Eleven and David Harper's character Jim Hopper have on screen is incredibly beautiful. They are very close and share a deep love for each other. It's safe to say that in the show, they both saved each other in different ways. But outside of the set, the relationship is different. They both still love and care for each other, but David is very concerned about Millie. He's afraid that the fame and public attention will get to her head. In a podcast, David said, and I quote, "I have a real worry. I worry about her and the fame and all that she has to struggle with." David revealed this around the same time that Millie was facing a number of scandals, which we will be talking about next. In our 8th spot, we have Hunter Echo. Now, this is one of the scandals that I was talking about, and it's probably her biggest one. In July of 2021, during a live stream, Hunter Echo drunkenly admitted that he groomed Millie and that he did acts with her. Millie was 16 at the time, Hunter was 20. The age of consent is 18, but Hunter argued that everything was consensual and Millie's mom and dad knew everything. He even said that he lived in her house for 8 months. Still, the relationship was very inappropriate. And later, Millie's team said that they are taking action against Hunter and his claims as they were dishonest. Either way, Hunter had some nasty things to say about Millie. In the end, he got himself in big trouble instead of exposing Millie. In our 7th spot today, we have Drake. Now, this is another pretty weird controversy that Millie was involved in. It all started when it was revealed that Drake and her were pretty close and that they were frequently texting each other, which is weird because of their age difference. Like, Drake's in his 30s texting a teenager. And fans pointed out that Drake met one of his exes when she was a teenager and then later dated when she was of age. Anyways, according to Drake, Millie has a lot of boy trouble that he helps her with. Even Millie admitted in an interview that Drake helps her with her boy drama. When asked about what kind of boy drama, she said that it stays in the text messages. In our 6th spot, we have the stardom. Another tabloid revealed that Millie is having a hard time handling her stardom. They said, and I quote, "Millie has turned into a rude star and is unable to handle the stardom on her own." There are multiple videos of her interviews where people declare that Millie never leaves a chance to be in the spotlight and always interrupts her co-actors, which shows that she is being selfish and arrogant. End quote. Now, we will be talking about these interviews later on, but it is true. Whenever the Stranger Things cast does have an interview, Millie always takes the lead, preventing her co-stars to get a word in. And when they do talk, she often cuts them off and takes over the conversation, leaving them pretty annoyed. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with her behavior. According to some sources, Millie has already become a diva. Apparently, Millie's attitude was fine during Stranger Things season 1, but as soon as she got all the attention, her attitude changed. She started trying to behave more adult-like for the press, and a lot of people aren't here for it. In fact, she has been called cringy for it. It also makes it hard on set if she thinks she's top tier and the best. In fact, some people have labeled her as one of the most annoying actresses. Coming in at number 4, we have Jacob Sartorius. The two dated in 2017 for a few months. Millie said that when they broke up that it was mutual, but it seems like Jacob was pretty hurt over their breakup. In fact, he apparently wrote a number of songs about Millie, including the song We're Not Friends, and the lyrics definitely call her out. Some lyrics go as so: "You're bad at seeing signals, girl. I've never introduced you to a single girl. And everything I do around you is on purpose, putting in the work for ya, hoping that it's working. I spent about a year just playing my part. I'm picking up the pieces to your broken heart." He also goes on to sing, "Girl, I wanna give you more than good advice." Yikes. Jacob? Yikes. Who knew Jacob had it in him? Coming in at number 3, we have Sadie Sink. Now, according to Millie Bobby Brown, Sadie Sink is one of her closest friends. However, there have been a number of incidences between the two that make us think that Sadie isn't the fondest of Millie. First off, let's take a look at this clip from an interview with the Stranger Things cast.
Because I mean, it was fun, but like, because Sadie got to see how like crazy I am when I'm 11. Like, I'm just like, you know, always really like deep in thought, and so like working together for the first time was like really fun.
I feel so sorry for her. Like, look at how walled up and awkward she gets when Millie cuts her off. And if you watch other interviews, she continually does this with Sadie, and Sadie's face says it all. In our second spot today, we have Caleb. Now, during the same interview, Caleb, who plays Lucas Sinclair on Stranger Things, I guess noticed that Sadie wasn't talking and kind of shied off. So he kind of called out Millie and asked Sadie if she wanted to say anything.
Sadie, do you want to talk?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
You guys set it off.
Had he not said anything, Millie would have just continued to talk the whole interview without letting Sadie get a word in. And in our number 1 spot today, we have Caleb Part 2. During the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards, Sadie, Caleb, and Millie went on stage to accept the award for Stranger Things. And well, take a look at how that went.
And obviously, you guys. I mean,
Millie literally couldn't wait her turn and prevented Caleb from saying anything. After which he kind of just gives a look like, really? Really, Millie? And it was captured all on live TV. Also, Millie doesn't even turn to apologize or anything. I don't even think she realized that he tripped in the back.